Creating a coaching program around your podcast is actually one of the easiest ways to monetize anything at all. And how to make money in podcasting, honestly, has never, ever been easier than creating a coaching program. So in this episode, I'm going to talk to you about how to do that. I'm going to give you some insights on how I did it. I'm going to talk to you about how I created my Podcast Accelerator coaching program, some of the ups, some of the downs, and some of the things that you need to consider and how you can get this up and running fairly quickly. Before I do that, I just want to give a quick shout out to the free coaching that we do every single week on a Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern. Over in our free Facebook group, we do free podcast coaching, all right? Come along. It's entirely free. We don't even need your email address for that. Just go to rebelbasemedia.io/free coaching and you will see everything going on in there, and you'll see the lives that we publish there are scheduled for 11 a.m. Eastern every Friday. That is free podcast coaching from me. So coaching, do you know, it's one of those weird things where, you know, you want to monetize your podcast, you want to generate money, and you're wondering how do I make money from my podcast? And so many people look at things like sponsorships, they look at listener support models through Patreon or Supercast or other options that are out there, and they kind of think of things like merchandise and t-shirts and stickers, which are all really great ideas. But a lot of people leave the lowest hanging fruit just still hanging. They don't pick it, all right? And that lowest hanging fruit is a coaching program. Now, a little caveat to this. Coaching programs as a podcaster, you've got to kind of be careful with them. I think that they only work for people that are in the business space or that are in some other natural coaching space, maybe like personal training, personal fitness, you know, guitar tuition, drum tuition. Business, of course, is very, very easy to do. They don't work for everything. Like, if I've got a Star Wars podcast, I'm not going to be able to give Star Wars coaching, all right? So this is not for every podcaster. And that's the first thing that you need to overcome, is figuring out, is this for me? Is this for my audience? Is this for my podcast? Creating a coaching program, you know, it needs work to do that. So that's the first thing that I want you to consider. And this is something that we talk about we've got an entire course on how to create a coaching program around your podcast inside our free podcastsuccessacademy.com. Okay, that's a free education resource that we also run. So we've got a course on this. And one of the first things that I tell people in that course is just, you know, figure out, is this for your audience? Is it for your niche? If you decide that it is, some things that I want you to consider, okay? Some things that I want you to consider. Coaching is not always scalable. You tend to find that people will create coaching and then scale that using a one-to-many membership model. And the path generally that coaches follow is they'll do some one-to-one coaching, maybe do a limited coaching program, which is maybe got between 5, 10, 15, 20 people on a one-to-one basis. Then they scale that up to a one-to-many mastermind, which means that their time input is slightly less, but they can, of course, serve more people on a one-to-many type session. Then what they tend to do is maybe scale that up to a membership, which really is one-to-many, okay? So that's kind of a natural progression that I see in podcasting, where people create coaching programs up through to a mastermind program and then through to a membership. Now, I've done this. I've done podcast coaching. Back in the day, I used to run a Podcast Accelerator. Same as my podcast is called, the Podcast Accelerator. I used to run the Podcast Accelerator coaching. I had anywhere between 8 and 15 people on that coaching program, and I loved it. We launched some amazing shows. Your London Legacy came from that one. Served.vet came from that one. I helped Remarkable Results grow from being a podcast into a podcast network. We did so much good work on that. And the things that I want you to understand, the things that I want you to think about when you're doing this, if you want to make money podcasting through creating a coaching program, you absolutely should. And I think what you should do is just consider, how can you make it easy for you to scale to a degree? And how can you make it so that your coachees, your mentees, the people that end up paying you, get the very best experience, all right? So here are some bullet point tips. Number 1, set out a very rigid format for your sessions, okay? You need to make sure that you know exactly how often you are going to do coaching. In my view, I would batch it. I used to do all my coaching for 1 day per month. 1 day per month, I would batch out 10, 15 sessions, and I would do a long day. I would work maybe 8 a.m. until 7 p.m. and I would just do back-to-back coaching. Luckily, I've got the energy to do that. You've got to keep yourself hydrated. You've got to keep yourself well fed, but you can do it, and you've got to be able to add that value all the way throughout that experience, okay? So batch things up like that and let people know exactly when their coaching dates are. Go well in advance. Make sure you're booking them for the year right up front. Next, make sure that the onboarding experience is outstanding. Make sure that they get some information from you. Make sure that they get a lot of information around what they can expect, how they can reach out to you, what you assure them will happen, all right? This is after we've talked about sales pages. That's not for today. You know, there's so much to do around sales pages and all that kind of side of it. The marketing side, that's for another episode. But what I want you to consider is how can you give people the best onboarding experience? Once they've paid you for that coaching, think about how you can onboard them really, really well. You've got to give them the very best experience. And also, you need to give them a safe place to share. I have a Slack group that I run. Okay, a little bit less so now because I've wound the coaching down, but that Slack group still exists. And everyone that I've ever coached has got lifetime access to that Slack group. And I'm in there. You can get a hold of me on a DM in there. It's one of the few places that you can actually directly DM me. That Slack group is great because people can share their own knowledge in a very safe place. Now, for you, that might be a Facebook group. There's nothing wrong with that. Just pick the channel that you want to use, but build a private and safe space. And then you have to be sure that you can continually add value. You have to do pre-briefings with people before you start coaching. Make sure you are pre-briefing. Do a pile of fact-finding on every person that you're working with and make sure that you know exactly what they're struggling with, exactly where they are in their journey, exactly the barriers that they're facing, their financial situation, so that you're not advising them to spend 10 grand a month on marketing when they're putting $200 a month into their show. You know, you really have to think about this. And you've got to think about, you know, where can you add the value? So for me, I'm very strategic as a thinker. So when I was coaching people on podcasting, I would be very strategically coaching them. If you are a fitness coach, obviously that's much more tactical. You've got to think about where your strengths lie and exactly what you can help people with and be very, very upfront on that. Now, there's so much more to creating a coaching program, but I think it's one of the best ways to monetize a podcast. We do have a full course on this inside podcastsuccessacademy.com. Go and check that out. It's a free resource and just step into this. Just tease it, you know, run it with a couple of people that are your real deep advocates and fans. Tell them that this is what you're going to do and really get a feel for what they need from you. Because believe me, you will be able to help people and you will have people that want your help. So if you're looking at how to monetize a podcast, setting up a coaching program is one of the greatest ways that you can do that. Go and give it a whirl. Let me know how you get along. If you need a hand, just get in touch with me, leave me a comment, hit me up on Twitter at Mr. Asquith, and please keep on talking.